Hello, I'm local Democracy Reporter Emma Draper, and I've been speaking to the first candidate to declare for the upcoming local authority elections, David Cretney. He says dog fouling, protecting public parks, and pushing for a review into the fortnightly bin collections would be his top priorities if elected by the people of Douglas South.
I retired in 2020 from the House of Keys in Tynwald after nearly 35 years. And the bit I most miss is the one-to-one, going to see people, trying to help them with little things. And I've been doing that since January, going around talking to people again. And I think it's very important that for the relationship between an elected member and those they seek to represent, that effort is made. And so I'm really enjoying that. And if I am successful, I would continue to do that afterwards. One of the things that's raised lots of times is making sure that we get value for money for ratepayers. And so that would be one of the things I'm interested in. All the time I was a member of the House of Keys, housing was a big issue and it remains such. So that's an area I'm interested in as well.
Why are you coming back to politics and why now?
Yes, well, I'm not somebody who just wants to sit around and watch telly all day. I've got 2 dogs and I love getting out for walks around the island with the dogs. But I have got spare time. I have got experience, which I think might contribute to the council, I hope, and work with others to make sure that we've got pride in our city. We now have city status, and so we need to take advantage of that, and hopefully I can help in some way.
What are you standing for? What's on your manifesto that are the key things that people need to know about?
As I've said already, housing, there's a number of empty properties in Douglas, which some are boarded up, some have temporary work outside, some need to be properly refurbished before they can come back into use. I'd like to see if we can make some progress on that because it seems to be that's an ongoing issue. I'm very pleased that there's been developments in relation to the flats on Peel Road, in Williston, the sheltered housing which has gone on of late. I think those are all great. And so given that housing has always been kind of top of my agenda, I'd like to play a part in that. We're very fortunate that our Victorian and Edwardian forefathers left us the lovely parks and gardens we've got, so I think they're important to be maintained. Also, play areas. The corporation is responsible for play areas, so I'd like to make sure that we continue to make proper provision for young people. Obviously, one of the controversial issues in the last couple of years was the refuse collection, where it went from weekly to every other week. I think the time would be right to have a review to see how things are going on with that. I think in some areas the recycling and normal bin collection is working really well. In other areas it isn't, and I think we need to see what we can do to improve that.
More specifically, the area you're choosing to stand in is Douglas South. So what are the key problems and key issues facing residents in that constituency, and how would you try and tackle them if you were elected by them?
Douglas South is an area I represented. I was elected 7 times, and I think it's good that we have an election. This time, 4 years ago, South Douglas was the only Douglas constituency that didn't have an election. I really, really hope that there will be an election this time in all of the Douglas constituencies. In fact, if you look island-wide, 9 of the 21 local authorities were the only ones that had an election. And the maximum turnout was about 40%. What I'm trying to set out is to create some interest in the general election for local authorities because they have got powers which affect people on a daily basis. I think it's important that we do what we can to promote local authorities. I think there should be less local authorities. At the moment, 21. In 1994, I moved in Tynwald to support the Time for Change, which would have brought it down to 14 local authorities. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful in that. I still believe that that's the case. I still believe that there should be an all-island rate. I still believe that the rates system as presently stands is completely past its sell-by date. There's been lots of discussions about that, but not a lot of action. And in terms of South Douglas specifically, as you asked, housing remains a big issue. We have a lovely constituency. School Valley Jilt, for example, in the middle of the constituency is a lovely area around there, but unfortunately, some people choose to be antisocial in relation to exercising their dogs. I'd like to do what I can in relation to that. It's a lovely area, particularly near to a school, isn't the place that you should be exercising your dogs and not doing the responsible thing afterwards. Most people do the responsible thing, and I just think it's the same with litter. It's the same with at the moment where people are starting to dump things. I really think that tidiness around the island and around the constituency is important and something that people care about.
What prompted you to stand and what factors led to the decision?
I think I've got something to contribute. I'm experienced. I think I can bring common sense. I think I can work with others and work also to cooperate with government agencies to make sure that Douglas gets the right solutions to issues which affect both Douglas but also the government. For example, when I was minister, I had to take through the legislation in relation to acquiring the Villa Marina after the talks between the local authority and government failed. I think that was the right thing to do on the basis that it's now funded on an all-island basis rather than by Douglas ratepayers. I think the same applies to the horse trams. The horse trams are now funded on an all-island basis. Those kind of things are important. And so, having been around for as long as I have, and having, as I say, started a couple of weeks ago going around to meet people again, it's really nice. I'm enjoying it. And I hope that I can make a difference in the term if I'm elected.
You mentioned quite a lot of your experience in national politics in Tynwald. What are you going to bring to the council if you're elected? Do you think those skills from national politics would transfer? Is that something you think you would be able to bring to voters?
Yes, I do. There's a different setup in government to the council, obviously, in relation to there's a leader of the council. Chairs of the various committees are not something which the leader has direct input into, whereas in government, the chief minister is able to select the ministers. It used to be subject to the will of Tynwald, and I would still prefer that, but that's not the case at the moment. So on that basis, I think having had the experience I've had over a long time, I think that I can, that the skills are transferable and that I can work to perhaps improve the existing constitution and how things work in Douglas Corporation for the better.
You mentioned then that you'd like to bring common sense to the council. And what does that mean to you? It's been quite a buzz phrase for a few years now for by-elections that we've covered and things like that here at Manx Radio. So what does common sense mean to you on your manifesto? Okay,
so on my manifesto and on my calling card and on my elections latterly to the House of Keys, I use the phrase, the man you know and trust. And I think trust is as important now as ever it's been. A number of people are disillusioned with politics. A number of people appear to be disillusioned with the local authority structure. There seems to be apathy in terms of the turnout. But the powers of the local authority impact people on a daily basis. And so it's important that people are able to trust those that they represent them. And in terms of that, I hope that people know me well enough to know that I'm not somebody who will go off on a mad tangent. I'm somebody who does bring common sense to my work. In these times, it's difficult for lots of families, and so the council should operate on the same basis as families have to operate and be careful in terms of the resources it has to invest in the town, on the city now, on behalf of the people who live in Douglas and those who come to visit us. I'd like to work with others, such as businesses and entrepreneurs, to make sure that we have a successful, busy place for the future. I know it's very difficult for lots of businesses at the moment, and I'd like to offer my support in taking that forward and trying to improve that situation as well.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.